first in-law Christmas. I was confident. After all, I had spent my years living in a domestic bakery. The recipe was on the box. I bought the cherry filling. I bought the frosting. It was practically done. But let's back up for a minute. It was for my first in-law Christmas dinner. And not just any in-laws, they were Italians. And if you know anything about Italians and food, they love their food. And this is not just for any Italian family. No, this was for the descendants of the longest running Italian restaurant in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah. And this was the Feast of the Seven Fishes. Now, Rocco's grandmothers had given me their blessing. I was good with my hands in the kitchen. I had cooked with them. They had never seen me bake. Thank goodness. Okay, so to begin, mixing the batter was straightforward. I had that down, not a problem. And then I went to put that in the cake pans. There was a problem. We were newlyweds. We did not have cake pans. But that was okay. We had pie plates. And I don't know if you know this, cake pans have straight edges. Pie plates have flanged edges. Not a problem. Because I was a ceramicist and I knew how to sculpt. Not daunting. So I put the batter into my pie plates, put them in the oven. They came out steaming hot, perfect, beautiful. And I didn't realize you're supposed to wait 2 to 3 hours before you shape or frost a cake. So I got right to work. And I took the first one, put it narrow side down, wide side up, opened up my can of cherry filling, spooned on a bunch, took the next cake, flipped it upside down, wide side down, narrow side up. I had made a cherry cheesecake flying UFO. Chocolate. So I called Rocky over because I thought this was hilarious. And I was like, look at this. This is so funny, a Sputnik creation. And as we're laughing, the heat from the two cakes had started to heat up the cherry filling, which then started to ooze out the side of the cake. What I didn't know is cherry pie filling needs to be heated for a prolonged time in order to get the gel to set. If you simply warm pie filling, it just gets runny. So the top layer was starting to slide off. Rocky grabbed the top layer and secured the cake. I got a bunch of toothpicks and pushed them down into the cake to make it structurally sound. And I was like, fine, this is great, we're good. Then I decided it's time to sculpt it into a cake. And as I was talking to him, I trimmed the edges, but I didn't trim it straight. I had accidentally undercut the cake, which then took it from a Sputnik-shaped flying UFO to a cantilevered side postmodern cherry waterfalling cake. So we were staring at it and I thought, not a problem. I had experience doing construction work, and what I saw was an opportunity for mudding. So I got out my can of chocolate frosting and I started filling in the cake to even out the side, but I quickly realized there was not enough frosting. And it was Christmas, and the stores were closed. But 7-Eleven was open, so standing in the 7-Eleven candy aisle on Christmas morning, I tried to decide what could be done next. And praying for inspiration while staring at the candy, I figured out what to do. I left with 1 can of vanilla frosting, the only can they had, and 2 Hershey's chocolate bars. After I got home, inspired from my time doing small home restoration renovation, I started breaking up the chocolate bars into subway tiles. And then I took the vanilla frosting and mixed it with the leftover dark frosting to make a beautiful milk chocolate frosting, inspired by my time doing murals for restaurants and homes. I then back buttered each tile with the frosting and started pasting it around the outside edges of the cake. This did 2 things. 1, it shored in the cherry oozing pie filling, and 2, it made the sides nice and straight. Also, it conserved enough frosting that I was able to frost the top of the cake, and it actually looked okay. And I thought to myself, all right, this is going to be okay so long as nobody cuts the cake. So from this icebreaker, I hope you remember the following cake baking tips. 1, use baking pans, so much easier, and check to make sure you have them. 2, cakes need to be cooled at least 2 to 3 hours before sculpting and frosting them. 3, toothpicks are wonderful stabilizers if ever something is sliding around. Having a little more frosting than you need is never a bad thing. And it's okay to make a cake hours, if not a day before it's due. Not like I did, which I did all that in about 2 hours. It was a hot mess, literally. All right, and finally, Toastmasters, please do not ask me to bake.